Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Diary of a Young Naturalist by Dara McAnulty. Narrated by Dara McAnulty.
Prologue. This diary chronicles the turning of my world from spring to winter, at home in the wild, in my head. It travels from the west of Northern Ireland in County Fermanagh to the east in County Down. It records the uprooting of a home, a change of county and landscape, and at times the derooting of my senses and my mind. I'm Dara, a boy, an acorn. Mum used to call me Londu, which is Irish for blackbird, when I was a baby, and sometimes she still does. I have the heart of a naturalist, the head of a would-be scientist, and the bones of someone who is deeply wearied by the apathy and destruction wielded against the natural world. The outpourings on these pages express my connection to wildlife, try to explain the way I see the world, and describe how we weather the storms as a family. I started to write in a very plain bungalow, surrounded by families who kept their children behind closed doors, and empty nesters who manicured their gardens and lawns with scissors. Yes, I actually witnessed this. This is where sentences first began to form, where wonder grappled with frustration on the page, and where our garden, unlike any other in the cul-de-sac, became a meadow during the spring and summer months, with wildflowers and insects and a sign that read B&B with a double E, staked in the long grasses, and where our family spent hours and hours observing the abundance that the other gardens lacked, all of us gloriously indifferent to the raised eyebrows of neighbours that appeared from behind curtains from time to time. We've moved on since then, crossed the country to make another home, and not for the first time. We've lived in many places during my short life, in a kind of nomadic existence. But wherever we settle, our home is crammed with books, skulls, feathers, politics, unbridled debates, tears, laughter, and joy. Some people believe that roots grow from bricks and mortar, but ours spread like mycelium networks, connected to a well of life lived together, so that wherever we go, we stay rooted. My parents, both from working class backgrounds, were the first generation of university goers and graduates in their families, and they are still fresh with ideals for making the world a better place. This means that we are not rich materially, but as Mum says, we are rich in many other ways. Dad is and always has been a scientist, marine and now conservation. He's brought alive the secrets and knowledge that wild places hold and explain the mysteries of nature to us all. Mum's career path resembles the way she crosses a stream, never in a straight line. Music journalist, voluntary sector, academic. She still does a little of all of these things, as well as teaching my 9-year-old sister Blanid at home. Blanid's name means blossoming one, and at the moment she's a fairy expert who can give you a multitude of insect facts, keeps pet snails, and also fixes all the electrical equipment in the house, which Mum boggles over. I also have a brother called Lorcan, fierce one, who is 13. Lorcan is a self-taught musician and never fails to rouse in us sheer wonder and confusion all at once. He's also an adrenaline junkie, think running down mountains, jumping off cliffs into the sea, and generally going through life with the energy of a neutron star. Then there's Rosie, a rescue greyhound with severe flatulence and a brindle coat, whom we adopted in 2014. She's our tiger dog. We call her the living cushion, and she's a wonderful companion and stress reliever. Me? Well, I'm the pensive one, always with dirty hands and pockets stuffed with dead things, and sometimes animal scat. Before I sat down to write this diary, I had also been writing an online blog. A good few people enjoyed it and said more than once I should write a book, which is quite amazing really, as a teacher once told my parents, "Your son will never be able to complete a comprehension, never mind string a paragraph together." Yet here we are. My voice is bubbling up volcano-like, and all my frustrations and passions may just explode into the world as I write. Not only is our family bound together by blood, we're all autistic, all except Dad. He's the odd one out. And he's also the one we rely on to deconstruct the mysteries of not just the natural world, but the human one too. Together, we make for an eccentric and chaotic bunch. We're pretty formidable, apparently. We're as close as otters. And huddled together, we make our way in the world. Spring. In the darkness, my dreams are interrupted. I'm somewhere between swimming to the surface and coming up for air when the flute catches my consciousness. The bedroom walls disappear. The space between my bed and the garden narrows, becomes one. I rise without moving, pinned by the heaviness of sleep. The notes keep falling on my chest. Now I can see the blackbird in my mind, its testosterone arrows flying as the territorial sonatas spread across the dawn. Engrossed in the symphony, awake and thinking, the whirring of my brain begins. Spring varies from space to space, but for me, it's the sights and sounds swirling around my everyday, from sky to roots, that holds the most magic. Spring is the frog that crossed our path at the beginning of our time in this house. Our first encounter was a splodge of spawn left quickly on the road, its invisible pathway intruded upon by modernity. Upset, we dug out a watery sanctuary with hope, a small bucket of water buried and filled with broken clay pots, pebbles, plants, and some sticks for the entrance and exit. We didn't really know if it would work. Anything deeper would have needed a digger to break through the boulder clay that we're blessed with in our suburban Enniskillen garden. But there was another meeting, the following year, when our amphibian friend danced a jig on the grass and was joined by another, leaving us a gift of frog spawn in the bucket refuge. We were exultant, and our whoops of excitement could be heard from the bottom of the hill, drowning out for a moment the sound of cars travelling to Sligo or Dublin, and even rallying against the background noise of the concrete factory nearby. The ebb and flow of time, punctuated by the familiar, brings a cycle of wonder and discovery every year. Just as if it's the first time, that rippling excitement never fades. The newness is always tender. Dog violets push through first, just as the sparrows dig the moss from the guttering, and the air is as puffed out as the robin's chest. Dandelions and buttercups emerge like sunbeams, signalling to bees that it's safe to come out now, finally. Spring is all about watching each resurgence. Blanid celebrates by counting daisies every day, and when there's enough to make a crown, she becomes the Queen of Spring. If there's some left over, she makes a bracelet and matching ring to complete the trinity. At some point, like magic, there are enough daisies for a whole week's worth of trinkets and charms, so she leaves us all daisy gifts around the house. I've been told more than once that I was an Aurora baby. Always awake at dawn, I was born in spring, and my first mornings were accompanied by the sonata of the male blackbird, nourishing a growing body and mind. Maybe its song was the first lure to the wild, my calling. I often think of St. Kevin, picture him standing with his outstretched hand, cradling a blackbird nest until the single chick has fledged. Kevin of Glendalough was a hermit who sought solace in nature. Gradually, as more people came to see the holy man, seeking out his advice and teaching, a monastic community grew. I love the stories of Kevin, perhaps because Kevin is also the saint's name I took at my confirmation. Although I now feel that this experience was more a coming of age, his name is still important to me, even more so now, because his story shows that we just can't help intruding on wild places and altering the balance between people and nature. Perhaps that's how Kevin felt too, as more followers arrived. The richness of the notes, I can pick them out, even from the most crowded airspace. They are the start of it all, the awakening of so much. The song carries me further back. I'm free, and living either inside my head or amongst the creeping, crawling, fluttering wild things. They all make sense to me. People just don't. I'm waiting for the dawn light to come into my parents' room. Lorcan is nestled between Mum and Dad. I'm listening for the notes. And they come just as the first slice of light reaches the curtain. Golden shadows unveil the shape I've been waiting for. The blackbird, harking from the kitchen extension, a glorious messenger on the rooftop of the sleeping and waking. When the blackbird came, I could breathe a sigh of relief. It meant the day had started like every other. There was a symmetry, clockwork, and each morning I'd listen and touch the shadows, not wanting to open the curtains and wake everyone up. I never wanted to destroy the moment. I couldn't invite the rest of the world in, with its hustle and bustle, its noise, its confusion. So I listened and watched. The tiny movements of beak and body, the straight lines of the telephone wires, the 30-second interval between verses. I knew that my bird was a male, because once I crept downstairs, just once, to look out and up from the patio doors. It was stark and grey, but he was there, and so he was, always. I counted and remembered each beat, then crept upstairs again to watch the shadow play on the curtain. The blackbird was the conductor of my day, every day, for what seemed like a long time. Then it stopped, and I thought my world would fall apart. I had to find a new way of awakening, and that's when I learned to read. Books about birds first, and then all wildlife. The books had to have accurate illustrations and lots of information. The books helped me bridge my blackbird dream. They connected me to the bird physically. I learned that only the male blackbirds sing with such intensity, and that birds sing when they have a reason to, like defending territory or attracting a mate. They didn't sing for me or anyone else. The loss of that song in autumn and winter was traumatic, but reading taught me that the blackbird would come back. Spring does something to the inside of you. All things levitate. There's no choice but to move up and forwards. There's more light too, more time, more doing. Every past spring merges into a collage, and it's so full of matter, all that matters. And that first memorable spring, so etched and vivid, it was the start of a fascination with the world outside of walls and windows. Everything in it pushed with a gentle force. It begged me to listen and to understand. The world became multidimensional, and for the first time I understood it. I began to feel every particle and could grow into it until there was no distinction between me and the space around me. If only it wasn't punctured by aeroplanes, cars, voices, orders, questions, changes of expression, fast chatter that I couldn't keep up with. I closed myself away from this noise and the world of the people that made it. I opened up among trees, birds, and small secluded spaces that my mum instinctively and regularly found for me in parks, forests, on beaches. It was in these places, apparently, that I would uncoil, face tilted with concentration, wearing a very serious expression. I absorbed the sights, the sounds. I suddenly fade out and in, realizing that it's light outside, and the dawn chorus has stopped. The spell is broken. It's time for school. These days, it feels like things are changing. I'm here on the cusp of my 14th year, and the blackbird, that conductor of my day, is just as important as it was when I was free. I still crave symmetry, clockwork neediness. The only change is another kind of awakening. The need to write about my days, what I see, how I feel. Amongst this onslaught of life, exams, expectations, the highest of which are my own, come these outpourings. And they are becoming a cog in the cycle between waking and sleeping and the turning world. Saturday, 21st of March. The arrival of March is a time of emerging colour and warmth, but standing in my garden today is like being encased in a snow globe. The icy flakes bite and snatch away the brightness of yesterday. This cold snap brings with it a tough time for our garden birds. They're our extended family, so I rush out to buy more mealworms from the garden centre just down the road to top up our feeders outside the kitchen window. The feeders are a good 12 feet away to draw a line between neighbourly privacy and invasion. Just a few days ago, our blue tits were prospecting the nest boxes, and the bird song in the garden was a concerto of anticipation. And now this. Birds are resilient, but this dip in temperature has us all worried. It's hard to believe that we felt the whispering of warmer days. Only last week, while we were in the branches of an ancient oak at Castle Archdale Country Park, where Dad's office is based. Many people attribute my love of nature to him. He's definitely contributed deeply to my knowledge and appreciation. But I also feel the connection was forged while I was in Mum's womb, the umbilical still nourishing. Nature and nurture, it's got to be a mix of both. It may be innate, something I was born with, but without encouragement from parents and teachers and access to the wilder places, it can't bind to everyday life. Dara, my name, means oak in Irish, and sitting up in the branches of that majestic tree, feeling the pulse of a life that has been growing in Castle Archdale soil for nearly 500 years, I was clinging to my childhood by a twig. I watch a chaffinch in the garden with confetti flecks on his silver crown. He rests on a branch of our cypress tree, an evergreen now turned powdery white with snow. The chaffinch's peach blush chest puffs out as he's joined by a pair of siskins, one citrus yellow and black, the other delicately flecked with pewter, a daintier yellow. The robin, as ever, is lording it about, pompously strutting to ward off any usurpers. Earlier, there was a 4 males and 1 female tussle of feathers and pecking heads. Robins are so aggressive, they're said to sever the neck of any opponent. But I wonder if they do that in gardens so full of seeds, nuts, and fancy buggy nibbles. Plenty for all. A song thrush plays hopscotch in the snow, scrabbling around for the seed we've scattered. The bright red of half-eaten apples is spotted. The thrush pecks, releases juice. I smile. The thrush comes at odd points in the seasons, which is the sort of unpredictability that would have caused me frustration and pain in the past. But now I've learnt to rationalize the unreliable thrush, and to appreciate all the encounters without ties or expectation. Well, sort of. In the evening we celebrate Dad's birthday as though it's a winter wassail. We all sing and dance and play our tin whistles, badly, shrieking notes and demanding the end of darker days, calling out for light. Mum has baked him a cake, Victoria sponge, his favourite. Wednesday, 25th of March. I find the tail end of winter frustrating, and all this waiting to travel through a portal into colour and warmth brings out my worst characteristic, impatience. Today, though, the heat of the air and the hum and buzz all around allay my restlessness. At last, spring seems to be escaping the retreating shadows of winter. This morning, we're all off to one of our favourite places, Big Dog Forest, a Sitka spruce plantation close to the Irish border, about 30 minutes from home. High in the hills, with pockets of willow, alder, larch and bushes of bilberry in midsummer. Its two sandstone mounds, Little Dog and Big Dog, are said to be the result of a spell cast on Bran and Scolan, the giant hounds of the legendary Finn McCool, the hunter-warrior and last leader of the mythical Fianna people. While out hunting, so the story goes, Fionn's two dogs picked up the scent of the evil witch Malacht and gave chase. The witch fled and changed herself into a deer to stay ahead, but the hounds still snapped closer. So Malacht cast a powerful spell that turned the dogs, Little Dog and Big Dog, into the two hills we see here today. I love how these names tell stories about the land, and how telling these stories keeps the past alive. Equally, I'm fascinated by the scientific explanations that geologists blast this myth with. The sandstone of the hills is more robust than the surrounding limestone, and as this wore away through glacial erosion, it was the sandstone that remained, towering above the fallen rubble of the Ice Age. I spy coltsfoot, bursts of sunshine from the disturbed ground. White-tailed bumblebees drink and collect hungrily. Dandelions and their allies in the daisy, or Asteraceae, family, are often the first pollinating plants to flower in spring, and are incredibly important for biodiversity. I implore everyone I meet to leave a wild patch in their gardens for these plants. It doesn't cost much, and anybody can do it. As nature is pushed to the fringes of our built-up world, it's the small pockets of wild resistance that can help. Sometimes ideas and words feel trapped in my chest. Even if they are heard and read, will anything change? This thought hurts me, and joins the other thoughts that are always skirmishing in my brain, battling away at the enjoyment of a moment. The click-clacking of a stone chat brings me back to where I should be, in the forest, and I watch as the bird seems to drop tiny gravel fragments onto the path. I gaze down as the light passes over the path, and realise nothing is motionless. Even a stone pathway can move and change with the light and the silhouettes of birds in flight. Each moment is a picture that will never be identically repeated. I watch, captivated, not worried by what onlookers might think. As we usually have this place to ourselves, I can be myself here. I can lie down and stare at the ground if I choose to. and while I'm staring, inevitably, a creature passes by the tip of my nose, a woodlouse this time, ambling from nowhere to somewhere. I offer it my fingertip, and it tickles my skin. I love the feeling of holding a creature in my hand. It's not even the connection I feel, but the curiosity it quenches. As you look closely, the moment sucks you in, again and again. It's a perfect moment. All other noise disappears from the space around you. I move to the grass and gently lower my finger to the blades. The woodlouse disappears in the undergrowth. Blanid and Lorcan rush ahead to the brow of the hill, which drops down to Loch na Brickboy, while Dad, Mum and I amble, chatting about replacing Sitka with native trees in this special place. Last year, at almost this exact time, we reached the top of the hill and saw the magnificent sight of 4 hooper swans, the only true wild swans. These gentle, melancholic figures bobbed gracefully on the pool, necks held high. They could have been the children of Lear, Eve, Fionnuala, Fiachra and Con, cursed by their cruel stepmother Aoife to spend 300 years on Loch Derravara, 300 years on the Sea of Moyle, and 300 years on the Isle of Inishglora. Slowly and quietly we approached the willow-shaded picnic table beside the lake, and they stayed with us as we sat in silent reverence and awe. We felt so privileged. My heart beat faster. My breath felt trapped in my chest. The birds sailed along nonchalantly, until suddenly the honking and trumpeting began. I moved to take a closer look, shielded by the bare branches of a willow tree. I sat as still as the air, watching the widening ripples made by the birds readying for flight. Wings extended, heads dipped, their legs rotating ferociously as they rose up, ungainly webbed paddles, giving them forward thrust and lift-off. Away they went, bugling like a royal convoy. They disappeared to the northwest, perhaps towards Iceland. To even hope for a repeat of this encounter would be unheard of, and looking down across the lake, I can see there are no hoopers today. It's empty. I feel a little melancholy as we make our way down to the picnic table. I find a spot and wait for the hen harriers, transfixed until the light fades. When it's time to go, my parents exchange knowing looks, and of course they're right, because I'm morose for the rest of the day, and when we get home I slink off into my room to write, to mope. No hooper swans today, no hen harriers. Saturday, 31st of March. In late afternoon light, with wind rising from the sea, we sail on the ferry the few miles from Ballycastle on the northeast coast to Rathlin Island. Guillemots and gulls scrabble the air with screeching and cackling. My excitement is intense. Today is my birthday, and this morning I lay awake in bed for hours before the actual birth time, 11:20 a.m., listening to a screeching fox in the distance. All week I've been like this, intensely excited, nervous, for reasons I may never truly understand. Perhaps it's because I love new places and hate new places all at once. The smells, the sounds, things that nobody else notices. The people too, and the right and wrong of things. Small things, like how we'd line up for the ferry, or what was expected of me on Rathlin when we arrived. Though I always do the usual mop-up operation in my mind after any journey, look back, and usually think how ludicrous it all was. Still, the anxiety floods in. Mum assures me that our time in Rathlin will be spent either outside or alone with the family. It will all be okay, she says. Eider ducks congregate at the harbour on our arrival, And as we head out to the cottage we'll be staying in for a few days, my usual dislike.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?